Well, I want to welcome everybody. It's such a beautiful afternoon that we're delighted that you're taking some time to be with us to think about our last year. As I've indicated, my husband and I, for the last week, had COVID, tested negative today, so we're much better. But talking isn't something I'm doing too well right now. So Lucas and the staff are going to take us through the report. So do you have my little bit up there, Lucas? I can't see.
Absolutely. Here we are. Yeah, Ina Grace is recuperating a little bit there. So I'm pleased to read it to us.
It's not that profound, but yeah.
I think it's great. Along with the rest of the world during the past year, CHPV has been adapting to the challenges of life after the pandemic. While Zoom drop-ins had been quite successful, we recognize that our members are missing the socialization of in-person gatherings. So it was decided to have one Zoom gathering a month, now called the Zoom drop-in, and one in-person get-together for lunch, which we now call the lunch gathering. The Oktoberfest was particularly popular with brats and beer and wine tasting, and Zoom enables us to continue informational discussions with speakers and their on-screen presentations. The in-person events enable us to enjoy one another's company. The CHPV Board of Directors, while overseeing ongoing programming, events, and fundraising activities, has scheduled a substantial portion of monthly board meetings to strategic discussions. During the past year, we've explored the relationship between the executive director and the board, what it means to be a governing rather than a managing board, and the board's role in fundraising and other topics. We also spent time considering board recruitment by sharing and evaluating our own experience as board members. We're delighted to welcome two new board members, Zisti Dembowski, who's serving as treasurer, and Kirsten Kiki Miller, an alumni of the Booth School of Business. I want to thank all the members of the board of directors for their commitment to and active participation in the ongoing life of CHPV as we plan together for a productive future. And with the leadership of Lucas, our executive director, and working alongside our excellent staff, Dorothy and Laura, we will continue to fulfill our mission of being an intentional, caring community of neighbors helping neighbors. Sincerely, Ina Grace Dietrich, president of the board. That's great. Lovely. Thanks, Ina Grace.
Yes.
And I have a little something to share here too. I can just paraphrase some of it. Don't need to read it all verbatim here, but certainly today, I really think today we look at the last year's accomplishments and the goals of the year ahead, but really I think we're celebrating this great community that we have built. All of our members, the donors, partners, our volunteers, our wonderful board of directors, and the staff, everybody embodying the spirit of the village, right? So it's been about 16 months now since I've been part of Chicago Hyde Park Village. And, as I reflect back, I certainly have, I've grown and learned tremendously, as I think the organization has. And we're continuing to figure out how to bring out the best in everybody involved. And I'm very grateful that the board has instilled this level of trust in my management and my organizational operational leadership. So, I remember after coming on to Hyde Park Village, multiple individuals came up to me and they quoted this popular local saying, you put 10 Hyde Parkers in a room and you get 15 different opinions, right? So, right, I know, but I think that's the nature of community. And as I say here, it reminds us that community building can be messy while being beautiful. So big thanks to my wonderful coworkers, Dorothy, Laura, Sierra, and Ella, and the many steadfast volunteers with their tireless commitment to helping to build this community. We've done a lot this past year, and I'm really also looking forward to the year ahead. Something I'm among the many great priorities for Hyde Park Village. I'm interested in advancing our diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility strategy, our DEIA. And so I think, it's certainly imperative that as we build a better community of neighbors helping neighbors, we want to ensure that we're breaking down historic inequities and marginalizations within and beyond our neighborhood. And so to that end, I want to share with everyone here that at last month's board meeting, it was decided to establish a new task force to explore and recommend actions and opportunities for advancing DEIA within the organization. We'll certainly be sharing more about that in future announcements. And then just one of many great things in the pipes is to put on your calendar August 9th along the lines of our expanding and embracing the diversity within our walls on August 9th for our Zoom drop-in. Our intern present here, Sierra Balog, will be discussing LGBTQ plus identity, diversity, and inclusion with Lynn Perriman, a dear friend of Chicago Hyde Park Village. And, I look forward to this journey for all of us together in this year ahead. Just moving along for the sake of our short time together here, as Ina Grace mentioned, we have two additions as of last year's annual meeting to our board of directors. So we certainly welcome Asisti Dambowski, who's been on our board for a good number of months, and Kiki Miller, who is the latest addition to our board of directors, and she joins us by way of a great program through the Booth School of Business to connect recent alumni with or meaningful local nonprofit organizations. So we're very pleased to have the two of you on our board, as well as all of our other fabulous board members, as you see on screen here. So big thanks to everybody, the engine behind the organization and the gears that keep it moving. So big thanks to Dorothy Pytel, Laura Voss Allen, some names you all know well, and putting faces to those names. And with us throughout this academic year, Ella Bruning is our Crown Family School of Social Work Policy and Practice intern, and Sierra Balog joins us from Adler University, an art therapy student who's joining us through the social justice practicum internship. So a lot of wonderful, helpful hands who help out behind the scenes and in the forefront. So we're going to just keep going through our wonderful slideshow, because we have so much great content to share and wonderful accomplishments to highlight and discuss. I love to put things in perspective. In 2022, you all engaged in approximately 400 events, depending on how you want to split those hairs, focusing on learning, socialization, health, well-being, and social support. This is truly part of a cornerstone of Hyde Park Village's mission, fostering socialization, educational awareness, and general health and well-being through engaging the mind and engaging the body and engaging the spirit, right? This slide here, despite all the text on screen, doesn't do it justice. The staggering scale of everything that's been accomplished at Hyde Park Village through countless hours behind the scenes and in the forefront by the staff and the many tireless volunteers. And right here, we have a snapshot of our ongoing programs. So that list is certainly impressive on its own, but then to consider every one of these ongoing programs meets anywhere from once a month to twice a week. And so just to multiply that, the sheer scale of everything that's accomplished at Hyde Park Village is amazing. Zoom drop-ins, for example, we break just that one Zoom drop-ins out, and we see at left the list of this last year's 2022 Zoom drop-in programs, and then a shout out to a few of our collaborative events, most of which took place on Zoom. But I wanted to find a great way to highlight the Hyde Park Village's historic participation in our 4th on 53rd Street parade. So what we do takes many shapes and scales. And so, yeah, it's really wonderful. Certainly want to give a specific shout out to the program committee and our fabulous program committee co-chairs, Ann Audrain and Terry Stump, for their tireless work in putting all of this together. So much going on here. So, and it takes many, many hands as well. Just to highlight further some just great numbers of and putting something into perspective here in 2022, you exercised a combined total of 1,779 hours. I'm sure you all feel very fit.
Yeah.
So what does that mean, though, right? You know, one way to wrap our brains around just the scale of and depth of programming is to represent it in person hours. That's a term I like to use, person hours. So number of people times number of hours, right? And so between here, yoga, you see approximately 100 sessions in 2022, and our strength and flexibility with Wesley Pulfus, Coach Wesley, approximately 50 times, meeting weekly. Yoga, meeting twice a week. So between those 150 sessions times the number of individuals who participate, we get about 1,779 hours. And so it just shows that it's more than just the number of sessions, but it's how many people are engaged through that. Something to point out here too, that certainly it takes a village and then some, that we couldn't do what we do without generous support from people like you, as well as our yoga program is supported by a generous anonymous gift from a donor. And our exercise with Coach Wesley is sustained through our continuing partnership with the Share Network and the financial assistance that they offer. But certainly we're very reliant on a diverse flow of revenue to ensure that everything you love to do is offered sustainably. So continuing to move along here, we're going to highlight a bit of some of our services that we offer, not just activities and social programs, but some direct services and support for our members and non-members. And with that, we're going to pass the mic a few times during this, and I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Dorothy Pytel, to tell us about the Village Visitor Program.
Welcome everyone this afternoon. So this is one of our signature programs. I was hired back in 2018 to start this program. So it is well underway. I just provided some numbers for the past few years. And as you can see, just over the past 2 years, we have seen a significant increase. We have a lot more volunteers in the program, as well as older adults. The program is a very simple model. It's really about just connecting a caring volunteer to a family or an older adult in the community that's interested, and the goal is friendship. And the visits tend to be about an hour a week, and people go for walks, have a cup of coffee, do practical things like look through bills. For someone who's blind, that's quite a significant assistance. So they're very different, sort of depending on the interests of the older adults. Next, please. And that's one of the families in the program right there. So we included a couple quotes in here because we thought that would kind of help you. So Sam Gard is one of our members. He's in his mid-90s, I believe. And so he has a volunteer. Her name is Stella. And he says, she's helping me organize my books and doing simple things like making me a sandwich. I fought for her country in the Korean War, and now she's helping me. One of the things we really try to do is look at the interests of the volunteer or experiences of the volunteer, as well as the older adult, to see if there's some kind of connection that can be made, like a musical instrument. And in this case, it was the volunteer happened to be Korean, and Sam mentioned at some point that he'd served in Korea. So it was a wonderful opportunity to connect the two of them. On the right, I have one of our volunteers, Antrita. She had, for instance, there was more around the culture, the topic of culture. She says, we talked about the Joffrey Ballet and things that to do around Chicago. Was super fun, referring to the visit. A lot of our volunteers in the Village Visitor Program are oftentimes undergraduate students at the University of Chicago, although we do have some community members and some Chicago Hyde Park Village members as well. But many of these people these young students are actually new to Chicago. So the older adult really takes on somewhat of a mentoring role, in the sense of they just talk about the things that they enjoy to do in the city or did over the many years of them living in Chicago. So it's really wonderful because it's a mutually beneficial relationship, because the volunteers often really get a much deeper understanding of history, get a deeper understanding of the community and of Chicago overall. Next. Here are some photos of some of our participants. That's Trudy Davis. She's one of our members, as well as Caitlin Somerville. She is in medical school, and so she's just enjoys visiting Trudy. And there's a picture of them going to go vote in November of 2022. I thought that was so lovely that they sent a photo. And then they went for a walk afterwards. And then on the right side, Trudy returned from a hospital stay, so was really excited to reconnect with Caitlin once they were able to visit again. Next. This is a great example that it's not just older adults that benefit, their pets also benefit from the program. Here is volunteer Ivana del Valle Suarez, and she is playing with a cat of one of the participants of the Village Visitor Program. And so the kitty cat's name is Julius, and it's Sarah Lausen's cat. So it's really also our four-legged friends really enjoy the visits as well. Next. And in this slide is just really the champagne flutes sort of allude to a conversation I had with one of our volunteers, Leslie Block. She visits a lovely gentleman named Mr. A, who he's a retired police officer who's blind, but is super excited to continue to be able to live independently. And so Leslie often travels outside of the country even, but she is just amazing at communicating with him. So the champagne flutes are this New Year's Eve, she was out of town in Paris, but she made a point to call him at midnight in Paris to wish him a happy New Year's, which I thought that was very lovely. And then he reciprocated by calling her on her birthday and singing to her. So it's really just, these visits really turn into friendships. Next. And then we have this lovely video that one of the participants' families sent to us. So Lucas, why don't you play the video?
One more time at least.
All right, one more, Alice.
That's great.
So that's a lovely video that one of the participants, Alice, and her family shared. And that's Mahesh, the volunteer that visits her once a week. He's also a medical student. And they have this lovely greeting, or actually it's a ritual to say goodbye to each other. So it's just really lovely that they look forward to this every week, and not only their visits, but also their opportunity to then say goodbye to one another. Next.
Great. All right.
Lucas, I think I'm passing on to you now,
yes.
right?
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dorothy. I love that secret handshake. That's really great. That should totally be a Chicago Hyde Park Village thing. Thank you so much. Yeah. So that's one wonderful example of the tremendous community impact that we're able to offer with all of the support that we receive. Inside and outside. And another great event that I think I really like to point a finger at as another example of just how the community comes together and how we can lift up those who may otherwise not have immediate family in the area with whom to celebrate on Thanksgiving, friends or family, or if for those who find it difficult to get out of their homes. We have our Hyde Park Community Thanksgiving Day meal, which Hyde Park Village offers in conjunction with Augustana Lutheran Church. They work with us to open their doors to allow us to offer this great community gathering. And just a few statistics on here, a total of 72 pre-registered meals in total. And I say it that way because in addition, the third bullet, we received a wonderful gift from Commissioner Lowry's office of 60 additional meals, which enabled us not only to feed those present and those who requested a home delivered meal, but to stock the Love Fridge, as you know, that community fridge at 55th and Woodlawn, and distribute meals to other local meal distributors. And so, yeah, altogether, 17 meals we were able to offer to individuals complimentary for those who might have difficulty affording a wonderfully home cooked meal. And but then, and coincidentally, the number's the same, but not the same individuals. 17 meals were delivered to homes. So a huge thanks to and everyone who was involved in putting this together, especially a shout out to Susan Alito on our board, who is monumental in putting this event together, as well as our Hyde Park Village's drivers, and to bring people to the event, those other volunteers who shepherded the delivery of meals to people's front doors, and then those who worked at the event and behind the scenes on the event. And also to our donors who contributed to making this happen and to providing those complimentary meals to people. And Hyde Park Produce, a longtime friend of Hyde Park Village and supporter, enabling us, as it says here, to offer these at a very neighborly price. It takes every village really to, and we can easily overuse that expression, but just a great example of the thanks that we receive from Contessa Miller here. Thank you, Susan, Dorothy Pytel, and all those who made our Thanksgiving Day a brighter day. These 3 meals were enjoyed by the 3 of us in this household, plus a visiting guest. So it makes a huge difference. Yeah, as I shared, one of the great ways we can bring these meals to people's doors and also get people into the building for those who can enjoy activities and events in person. One of the real cornerstones of Hyde Park Village's services, in addition to village visitors and the socialization activity. But one of these direct services is our rideshare service. Many of you are familiar with this service that we offer for our full members, as well as to our associate members or all members for attending Hyde Park Village events. And I think at this point, I'm going to hand the baton over to, or the microphone over to Laura Voss Allen to tell us a bit more about this and other services which Laura so deftly administers. So Laura, please, thanks.
Thanks, Lucas. Our ride service, it is probably one of our most important services that we provide. It's not only a transportation that we're providing, but a social connection as well. It's much different than getting a cab or an Uber driver. And this year I also found out that it's also a social connection for the drivers as well, not just the person requesting the ride. We had a huge increase in rides, particularly when the weather was nice. You can see a 34% increase over last year. And those were provided by 17 drivers. And then when the weather started getting bad and the rides fell off, some of our drivers were calling me saying, I haven't gotten any ride requests lately. What's going on? So I think our drivers get something out of it as well. As you can see, about a little over 80% were for medical appointments. I think a lot of people were getting caught up with their appointments after the shutdowns from COVID. And that's part of the reason we had such a huge increase. And as I work with our drivers, I am just always astounded at their generosity and their willingness to do rides, sometimes, multiples in a week. So it's really wonderful that the drivers that we have. And then I'd like to highlight a quote from one of our ride recipients who made a point of calling me and just relaying how comforting it is to have this service available, and how the driver was on time and very pleasant, and it's so much more than a ride. She is so thankful for the village and our services. So, okay, next slide. Okay, referrals to third-party providers. We have fewer than last year, and I'm hoping that that's because we now have the referral database online and our members are taking advantage of using that. Most of the referrals, the percentages are the same. The one difference is that this year we saw quite a few for dementia and memory services, and that's appearing for the first time. And then the next slide. Well, I guess that's back to
I think that's back to me.
yes.
Yeah, these are just a listing of a number of other services. So as you can see, a number of our volunteers really, the well-being checks is a very important thing that they do. They follow up with members to make sure things that they're okay. Sometimes things come up and you need some financial legal counseling, and there's some volunteers that have helped people deal with those kinds of issues. Family support, tech support, some medical companionship. We're starting to build some capacity for that. We are also very much interested in recruiting people to help that, because it's becoming an increasing need. So if you're interested in medical companionship, really is all about just being present with someone at a doctor's appointment, or perhaps helping them interpret something either before or after an appointment. So no skills necessary, perhaps, simply because most of us do that for our own life, to going on to doctor's appointments. But anyway, that's an opportunity if anyone is interested. We also have a wonderful relationship with Laura's. She's Laura Voss Allen is one of the folks in charge of a local Girl Scout troop. And she every year works with her pack to, I hope that's the correct term, or with her group to make Valentine's Day cards that then get delivered to our members. And we always get lovely feedback on people who receive those cards. And then we also have companion pets to give away. This is through a lovely collaboration with the Share Network. And there's a picture right there of Alice Mulberry with her companion pet that she received, who she gave the name of Frisky, because they used to have a cat at one point that looked very much like this. And the company's called Joy for All, and it's a pet that it actually meows and it purrs, and it even sort of moves its paw as if it's gonna, clean its face. So they're very lovely. And so we actually have one right now. It's a dog. It's in the office waiting for a lovely home. So if you know of someone in the community who would benefit from having or enjoy having a companion pet, please let us know. And we've got one right now waiting for a home, and we can get additional ones as needs arise. But yeah, as you can see, we're, there's a variety of needs that we help meet every year. Yeah, and then there's a number of miscellaneous ones. I'm going to kind of segue now into the next section, moving on from services to just talking about the role of volunteerism. Our catchphrase, we've heard it a couple times already: neighbors helping neighbors. So what's really important is to not undervalue what volunteers bring to an organization like ours. If you had to hire staff to do some of the work that our volunteers do, you're looking at $30.97 is about the cost in the state of Illinois. There's a group out there called Independent Sector that keeps track of this information, updates the information every year. So there is an actual financial cost associated or an equivalent to what volunteers bring. And I mention this because I think the next slide, please, Lucas. I wanted just to show you how perhaps one person doesn't really realize that like their impact is big, but if you take our 62 active volunteers and who've reported 3,040 hours of work, cumulatively, that's the equivalent of $94,000 of and $149 worth of work, essentially what they've done. And what we can do then is and this is why we always encourage our volunteers, if you're out there doing things, we need to know about it, because if you don't tell us, we can't report this wonderful work that you're doing to our stakeholders, our supporters, our funders, and really also importantly, our future funders, the people that we're trying to get at the table. When you come there and you say, you know, we have one staff, you know, full-time staff member, 2 part-time, and, you know, maybe 2 interns, but then you say on top of it, we have 62 volunteers, you know, who volunteered over 3,000 hours. All of this together really weaves a story of our capacity. So that is why we are always very keen on keeping track of what we're doing, because it really allows us to then to demonstrate our organizational capacity and then to grow. Which is, of course, what we're always looking to do, to be able to better meet the needs of older adults in our community. So we just want to give a big shout out to all of our volunteers. And next is a special shout out to all volunteers that volunteered 10 hours or more this past year. As Lucas mentioned, their names will be, or this report will be on our website after this meeting, so you can look up there, and there's a little asterisk after the people's names that are in the Village Visitor Program, and then a little arrow, upward arrow in front of our drivers. And then a list of all the other volunteers, as well as there's a listing of how many hours they reported. So if you did more work than what's on here, let me know, so that what you're doing, so next year we can really demonstrate or report on all the work that you've been doing. So again, thank you so much. This work that we do at the Chicago Hyde Park Village would not be possible without our amazingly generous group of volunteers. So thank you wholeheartedly. Next. Oh, and then we included this lovely photo montage, so to say, from one of our events this past year. It was the University of Chicago. Each fall, when they have a new batch of students coming, they do community service projects. And so we hosted a site. We hope to do this again this fall. And so there's Ellie Hall right there, getting some tech support from Noah, sitting next to her in the yellow shirt. And I will tell you, Noah is a first year U of C student. So just like 18, 19 years old. It was his first week at the university, or in Chicago. He had just moved here from Texas. And he, shortly after this event, really enjoyed he enjoyed himself, decided to become, send in a volunteer application, and he's now a member of our Village Visitor program, and he visits one of our older adults on a weekly basis. So it's as simple as that. Next.
Mm-hmm. And there's so many great little anecdotes like that of so-and-so had this brush encounter with Hyde Park Village, and now they're a volunteer or a member or something like that. Yeah. Great. Oh, okay. I think, now we're going to bring it back over to Laura. Thanks so much, Dorothy. And Laura is anytime you mail in your membership renewal form or fill out the information online or anything like that, Laura is the one behind the scenes who makes sure that everything falls into place. And so often also when our members call into Hyde Park Village, Laura is very often the one at the end of that line. So Laura's going to give us a little breakdown on our membership.
Okay, so we have just about 200 active members, 16 new members this year. The breakdown for the zip codes is pretty much the same as last year, as well as the ratio of full members to associate members that pretty much stayed the same. There was a 50% increase in the number of members who upgraded from associate to full this year. And that is about, we had a couple memberships that went from a household to an individual. And that was usually the case where a couple joined and then the husband didn't really participate. So they switched down to a individual membership. And so I think last year, Lucas mentioned how people can, through, it's a very fluid organization that way. You can just do what works for you at the time. So you can move from associate to full, from full to associate, and from household to individual, and individual to household. So Lucas, I think you had something else.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, that's thanks, Laura. Yeah, that's what's something I think it's really important, is that it's never one size fits all, right? And so to have multiple options, multiple avenues, and the more and more I speak with our village members, the more I realize everybody joins for a different reason, right? Some join for the socialization, some to stay fit and healthy, some to get tech support. Others specifically join because they need transportation to and from different appointments. And so joining at the full member will grant them that, the ability to receive rides to wherever they need. And associate members can receive rides to Hyde Park Village events and activities. So, but Hyde Park Village is heavily reliant on membership. It's a very substantial portion of our revenue. That has increased in the last year as our number of members have increased here, as Laura points out, 16 new members in 2022. So, one thing, though, to point out is that over the last 10 years that we've been an active open organization with membership as a 501c3, over these last 10 years, our costs have increased. Everything around us has increased and gotten more expensive. And especially sometimes we anticipate that with just regular inflation. Other times there are volatile financial situations, the pandemic, et cetera, that really changes the variables. And so while our costs have gone up, our cost for, or the price of being a member, has stayed fixed. And that has been very important to Hyde Park Village, that we know many of our members are on a fixed income, and economic disparity certainly is prevalent around, especially the south side of Chicago. So it's very important that we keep Hyde Park Village as affordable as possible to our members. However, over the past 10 years, while our membership our cost hasn't gone up, actually, it's only gone down. The cost of membership, years back, we lowered the cost. But this year, our board of directors has agreed that we're going to have a slight increase in the cost of our associate dues. So for our associate members, effective immediately, our membership dues will increase by $20. So associate solo or individual will go from $100 to $120 per year. So, and the associate household will go from $180 to $200. So the equivalent increase, same amount regardless of which type of associate member you are. But certainly we know that sometimes people wonder, well, can I afford to be a Hyde Park Village member? And especially the cost of a full membership for many people who do require the transportation service that might be beyond their financial wherewithal. And so also, we're very pleased to debut this the new tier of membership, which we call the Access membership. Access membership is a membership that offers at the $100 per year membership rate all the benefits of being a full member, so which is a $480 value. So in order though, however, to qualify for Access membership, one must qualify for or meet the income equivalence of qualification for the Illinois Benefits Access Program. So we're very pleased about our Access membership. We will look forward to getting the word out far and wide to our community members, our neighborhood, so that we can ensure that the wonderful resources of Hyde Park Village are made available to those who desperately need it. So you can certainly learn more about Access membership right now. You can download this flyer and the application form. If you go to chpv.org/join, you'll see a nice big button to download the application form, which has much further details in there, as well as a breakdown of the financial levels for qualification. And one other last quick thing before we get into the meat of our financials is another great feature that we rolled out this past year. Many of you are familiar with it because we've been seeing more and more of our members taking advantage of online membership renewals. So this is something we rolled out, just a few months ago, and I think back in maybe only October. And every month we've been seeing a slow and steady increase in the number of members who've been taking advantage of this. So it's, I think word's getting around. And as I say here, it's quick, convenient, and secure. So if you're interested in checking that out, next time to renew your membership, you can do it quite easily online. You will, our members receive emails as your membership is about to reach its renewal point. And so within that is a link. I don't need to tell you all how to do it now because we recorded a convenient tutorial video on how to do it. Easy as it is, it never hurts to have a tutorial. So here is the link. You can, when you download this report, or just go to the Hyde Park Village homepage, and in the upper corner, you'll find a link to our YouTube channel, which includes a handy little tutorial on this and additional fun tech things about our website. So be sure to check out our YouTube page. There's all sorts of great stuff in there. Now, with that, I think it's about time. In our final few minutes together, we're going to take a deep dive into our financials. And with that, I believe we have Azisti Dembowski, our treasurer, on the line here. So Azisti, very pleased to hand it over to you to lead us through the Hyde Park Village's financials.
Thank you, Lucas. So just a quick thing, well, first of all, hello, everyone. Hopefully everyone have a good evening. So I'm just going to go over our statement of financial position as of December 31, 2022. So that is for the last fiscal year 22 that we just closed in December. So if you look at it here, actually we have a surplus of a net revenue that's supposed to be like $5,103. And you could also see that in the prior year's actuals and current budget. And why does it look a little different from the report that we pulled from the QuickBooks? Because there's this $4 under the other current liabilities under Elizabeth Louis Smith Foundation. That's because there was an automatic journal entry that was entered by my previous predecessor. But this is something that we could fix in the future. So we are closing actually with a surplus in fiscal year 22. And the big major, I would say, difference is again on the expenses. So actually, if you look at the total staff and personnel costs, it did go up by almost, a little more than $30K. but I have to shout out to our fundraising team. They were able to bring in, a net of almost 11K in fundraising, which is in 2021. There was no such effort. So this is a wonderful news for, for all of us. And that will offset basically some of the increases in the staff or personnel costs. And the one thing that I also want to note that I spoke to Lucas, the way we set up our 2023 budget in comparison to the 2021 actual and 2022 actual is the where there's a line item under payroll, taxes, and health insurance. That's actually is roll up in the actual 2021 and 2022. So that's roll up to their salary. So the director salary, the project coordinator, and also the office admin. So all of that is roll up to their salary. That's why you don't see it under actual. Then this is also something that I think, Lucas and I spoke about it just a couple of days ago, that we will probably need to change how we put that line, the two line items, as opposed to be just rolling up to the salary. We should separate that the way we budgeted for 2023. So looking at the 2023 budget, it will show that we will have slightly a positive of $673, but that means, we do have to transfer from our reserve about 20K, and this budget was approved by the board, I believe, in the last board meeting. So that's what I have. If anyone has any question, please let me know.
I have a question, just asking, when this is recorded, can we increase the size of this so that we can see the numbers?
Yeah. We're providing this presentation, the PowerPoint, the slideshow, excuse me, right after this meeting. You're going to, give us a few minutes after this meeting, on the homepage of Hyde Park Village, there'll be a button such that you can download the PowerPoint presentation slides and then increase the size. Yes. Yeah, this is a lot of numbers on one screen here. Thanks, Ginny. Yeah, and something I was reflecting also on last year's annual meeting when Joanne, our treasurer, then mentioned that for the 2022 calendar year, a call to action, because our anticipated revenue, we would be at a little bit in a deficit in 2022 with a need to transfer money over from our reserves, and so a bit of a call to action. We actually ended very strong in 2022, and we didn't have that deficit. If I'm understanding all this correctly, Sisti.
That's correct. And that's also actually just to note that actually we don't have any remaining, dollars, right, to transfer for the, the restricted funds for accelerator program. So actually we do end up with this positive number. I think that's, again, I think that was a good way to end a fiscal year for, for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess it may be in that sense a bit of a call to action that while we're anticipating a need here to transfer money over from our reserves to balance things, we put the call out to our members and our supporters to help us, such that we don't need to rely as much on our reserves in the time ahead, and hopefully won't need to be reliant on that transfer to balance our 2023 budget. I think that maybe is a good time, unless there are additional questions about this financial, is a great time to segue over to fundraising and thank all of our wonderful donors here. that who have been so instrumental in helping Hyde Park Village just be a sustainable organization. While membership is a large chunk of our revenue, it doesn't support everything in the organization. We are also still very heavily reliant on the individual contributions and corporate donations to sustain Hyde Park Village and grants. So a huge thank you to all of our many donors listed on screen here, many of whom are members of Hyde Park Village, but many of whom are not. And so we couldn't do it without you. And this goes on for multiple pages here, you see, of donors. We have also our board member and chair of our fundraising committee, Margaret Hike, previous board president as well, on our call here. And I don't know, Margaret, if you wanted to contribute anything towards our conversation about fundraising efforts.
Always.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we want to tell you about our next fun event, our fundraising event, and you have I know you have a slide for that.
There we have it.
Are going to have another gathering, a chance to get together and have fun and raise money and to support our cause. So we are going back to the Polo Inn, which we were there in 2016 and had a wonderful time. They have fabulous food, and it's a very pleasant setting. And we're going to gather there for brunch on Saturday, June 10th. And we will have not only wonderful food and of course great company, but we'll have a smaller silent auction so you can pick up some of the treasures that we've been accumulating. And in addition to that, we're going to have an online auction again, as we did last year. And we've been getting together wonderful experiences and things, but mostly experiences where you can bid on and online and help get something wonderful for yourself and help the village as well. So I really look forward to seeing you all on June 10th. And that will be like a special, wonderful time to get together and enjoy each other. So thank you for everybody who's working on this and all of you who will be working on it, whom I haven't quite yet nailed yet.
Yeah, and you can
I'll be in touch.
And you can visit chpv.org/benefit, as it says here, to learn more. And we'll be updating that location. It's live, but there's still more to come at that event webpage for you to check out.
Yes.
And finally, thanks to our sponsors. So from prior and present, Mac Properties, Toyota on Western, DB Dentistry, Dr. Deborah Beatty, and the Polo Inn, where we're going to be having our June 10th fundraiser, the Polo Inn at the silver level, sustaining us at $1,000 to $2,499 level. So big thanks to our sponsors for supporting Chicago Hyde Park Village. We, I believe, are at the conclusion. We have about 3 minutes left for some questions here. And I do see in the chat, Terry asks a question of the South Side. Do we know how many members we have from the South Side? So yeah, the South Side as in beyond Hyde Park, if that's what you're asking about, Terry. Still going back to our membership, by the numbers here, 94% of our members are in the 60615 and 60637 zip codes. So that is, Hyde Park or Hyde Park adjacent. That other 6% then are probably about 5% of that other 6% is scattered around the city of Chicago, some on the north side and a handful more on the south side, and maybe 1% or so, if even that, of members are beyond the Chicagoland area. People who are members of the village and they move away and they want to remain members of the village. So that doesn't give you exact numbers there, Terry, but just to kind of a general sense of that. Yeah, hopefully that helps. Ellie's asking us about policies for listing events on the e-blast that are not village events. How do you submit such an event? Yeah, if you just send something to info@chpv.org, then we'll take a look at that and put it in the Hyde Park Village e-blast. If you scroll down in the e-blast, you find a section called in the community, right? Which is where we like to include our neighborhood events and things even sometimes a little beyond the neighborhood that might be coming up. So yeah, you certainly, we're happy to consider including any and all events. And if it's important to you, our members, and chances are it's important to many of our other members. So, yep. Very good. Any other questions? And so, as we said, this and it's always, I guess it's always nice to end with some contact info. So there you go. There are our contact info for the staff at Chicago Hyde Park Village, and as well, I said that info@chpv.org. That's an easy email address to remember. We do have Facebook and YouTube, so we're active on those two social media channels. So check those out. When you download this PDF presentation, there are some links throughout the document that you can click on and take you to different places on the internet. So Facebook and YouTube here are live links. And with
I want to thank you, Lucas, and Dorothy, and Laura, for putting together an interesting and informative presentation. It makes me proud to be a part of y'all. I didn't know we were doing so much. So it's good to now and then sit back and reflect and pull it all together and say, yay.
Yeah, I mean, boy, gosh, the number of people involved in putting everything together to do all that we do at Chicago Hyde Park Village, it's really amazing. So yeah, huge thanks to everyone. Thank you, Ina Grace. Thanks everybody for contributing to this, and for taking us, continuing us through the year and the years. And we certainly look forward to hopefully coming together and celebrating at our June 10th annual fundraiser event. So, and many times up until then and after then. So thanks, everyone.
I think we beat our numbers from last year. There's several views with 2 people in the room. So
Very good. Okay, well, bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks,
See you in June.
Very good meeting.
Take care. Good night.
Good night.